We are live in class, digital video, digital graphics, right? So let's go through the Photoshop interface. I think I want to turn it this way because I don't want y'all to break your necks. Is this?
Smaller, it's smaller. Oh, I think they're okay with it.
Two over there? Over this better? This worse or better over there?
Okay. By third year, it will be like this.
Let's turn on magnifier so you can see stuff. Alright, cool.
Yeah, it doesn't really work.
So I'll throw this up here. Alright, cool. So Photoshop here, essentially this is your interface. This is CS 5.1. Latest version is CC, but you can pretty much do the same thing. The other one, the later one, has additional features like some additional 3D stuff and some more things. Alright, so essentially when you start Photoshop, you get a screen like this. This is what you call your workspace, or your workspace is your layout, right? They call it a workspace. In Photoshop, you actually have different workspaces. Right now, we're on the painting workspace, which kind of just sets up your panels in such a way that if you're painting, you have access to the things that you need. Right? In the Essentials panel, which is the one that we usually get when we start, you have these options here, like this. So if you wanted to, I mean, you have different things like photography, 3D, motion. So if you want to animate or edit a video, you can actually come in and do stuff like that. So I'm going to stick to Essentials for now, and then we can go through it. So let's start with a document first. Create a new document. Essentially, you just click File, New. Shortcut is Control-N, and it's good to know your shortcuts because they speed up your workflow. The more you can do in less time is the more money you can make. For the video's sake, I will try to talk slow. All right. So when we start off here with New Document, right here, you can name your document. I'll just call it Class 1. Yeah, right. Right. Now we're getting somewhere. All right. So we have different presets in Photoshop. Now, presets are custom document sizes and settings that you might have. For example, I have one for Facebook banner 2017 because Facebook changes the size of the banner. So in the case I don't want to always, be looking up what size Facebook's banner is and somebody asks me to create a banner for them, I can always just click on this. It gives me the settings and I can just work with that. So if I click on this here, it tells you the size as 851 by 315. Resolution size I set to 300 because that's, for me, is my minimum for printing. Essentially, resolution, it goes with how much pixels you have per inch, and you can always use the measurement to pixels per centimeter. Essentially, the higher your resolution, the better the quality of the image, especially when printed. If you stick with the default desktop resolution, which is 72, this is what they give you by default. When you print it, the quality might not be so amazing. And worse, if you scale it up, it's going to look really blurry, right? So if you plan to print, the best thing to do is actually set the size in inches because those would be the actual size you'll be working with, all right? Because I could set this to that much inches, and if my resolution is really low and the inches are small, then it's very, very, very bad. So you can go from 300 and up, I would say. Stick with 300 if you're going to do work. Because it's not bad. All right, so the size, because I'm working with my screen, this screen, size of my screen is actually 1920 by 1080. I don't actually have to care so much about resolution. I can leave to the default desktop resolution. Now, the reason why you're taking resolution into consideration is because the higher resolution, the larger your file size. And it's good to take into consideration your file size because, you might have to store a bunch of files. And when it comes to Photoshop, where your file sizes can get really big, depending on how much layers and how much effects and graphics and colors and all that stuff you have in there, then that's something you might want to consider. So for me, I just stick to 300, and that's fine for me. The color mode we're going to stick with is RGB. You have bitmap color, which gives you a limited amount of colors, 256 colors. You have grayscale, which only does black and white. You have RGB color, which is red, green, blue, and all the colors in between that you can mix with. CMYK, usually you do that for print. The thing about CMYK, all right, first thing about RGB color mode is that RGB deals with your monitor, right? CMYK actually deals with your printing color. So you might work with CMYK mode here, and then when you want to print, the color might come out different. So usually I only use CMYK mode, never. But you can find a practical reason for using it is if a company gives you specifically that they're designing their logo and they give you the specific colors in CMYK, you are free to use it, because then you know exactly what colors they want. So the colors you're working with when you print it comes out the way they want it to come out. So CMYK, can anybody think of what the colors stand for? K is black. Yeah. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Yeah. And RGB is red, green, blue. Lab colors, I don't play with that yet. All right, so if you have something here, and let's say you're designing something like a business card. Business cards typically have this, well, Western business cards are different from like Japanese business cards. They vary in size. So depending on which country you go to, business cards have different sizes. But over here, we use 3.5 by 2. If, for instance, you know you'll be designing business cards for people and you don't want to keep putting in 3.2 by 5, you can actually come over here, put it in inches, 3.5 by 2, and you can actually save a preset. You can call it preset whatever you want. B card. When you press OK, and you can choose what settings you want to choose, right? And that's fine. Press OK. What happens when you hit presets? You're gonna see here in the custom one, 3.2, 3 inches by 2 inches B card. Now if you choose this and you just choose to delete preset, you can press delete. This can't be undone. So you can actually work with things like that. So like I said, everybody okay so far? Yeah. So I'm going to change this back to pixels, 1920 by 1080, and work with that. Press OK, and we have this. All right, so you're probably wondering what's going on here. All right, that is a brush, right? So my tools are located over here, and your tools are actually placed in categorical, in a categorical way. So you start with the selection tools at the top, then you have this line that divides them. Then you have your bitmap tools here, and you have this line that divides them, and then you have your vector tools, and the last set are for viewing, right? Viewing in the sense that you can zoom in, right? Zoom in. Or you can zoom out by holding Alt, ALT. You can actually zoom out, right? Another way you can control your zoom level is if you come down here and literally type it in, 50%, goes to 50%. Or you can use some of the shortcuts. For zooming is Control plus and CTRL minus, right? That's for zoom in, zoom out. I'm going to actually send you guys a link. Hello, Sir Mac. So, yeah, it is. Don't worry. 41 over there. Okay. So zooming out, zooming in, you know, Control plus, Control minus, right? The shortcuts for Photoshop, if you hover over them, you will see in brackets the shortcut for them. So move tool is V. This one is M for marquee. Lasso tool is L. Magic tool, you know, W. Magic wand tool. You have the crop tool, which is C, and the eyedropper tool, which is I. Kind of make it relatively easy. Spot healing brush J. It's good to know the shortcuts. Brush, typically in all software that I've used, brush is usually B or some variant of B. B, Alt B. And you have different things you can do. So let's start off with some of the basic stuff you want to do. One, So let's say you've taken a picture. All right. Let's see if I can find a picture. Pictures. I'll borrow one from where the default stuff. All right. So let's say we have an owl. I've opened this image by pressing File and Open, and you can open any images that you want as long as Photoshop can read that file format, and you should be fine. So let's say you have an image, and let's say when you imported it, or sometimes you might take the picture of somebody, let's say with your phone, and you use it in portrait versus landscape, and you want it to go from landscape to portrait, or if you use your camera, a DSLR or any other camera, sometimes you might turn it, but the image comes out slant. If you want to rotate an image, very simple, or any basic things you want to do with the image, you can find it in the image up here. So we have things like image rotation, image size, canvas size, etc. So we can go image rotation, and you can choose to rotate it clockwise or anti-clockwise. Press, let's say we did 180, you can flip it 180. Of course, if you want to undo, it's Control Z. Actually, if you want to step back, it's Control Z. If you want to undo, it's Control Alt Z, which we'll get into later. All right, so image rotation clockwise, like that. So let's say if it was like this before, yeah, you choose image rotation and you rotate it not that way. Here's what I'll do instead. I'll just rotate it 180 so I get back what I'm supposed to do. If for any reason at all you feel like you need to flip the image, right, you can go to image rotation and choose flip canvas horizontal, and it flips it the other way. What you looking at? Oh, say what? Yeah. Okay. Alright, cool. So that's your basic image rotation. Let's say you want to crop an image. Right, you can take the crop tool here, which the shortcut is C, and you can actually just choose to crop out the head. Click on this. Right, once you get that selected, it shows you what you're going to be cropping. If you press tick to confirm, or you can just press enter on your keyboard, and you can crop that image. When you actually crop an image, it actually means that you've literally lost the rest of the pixels, right? So if I actually move this over here, I've actually lost pixels. Right, in the course, you'll be learning about non-destructive editing and destructive editing. Non-destructive is where you actually just keep and manipulate your pixels, and destructive editing is where you actually lose things. And the reason why you have these different formats or different files. So example, let's say you're designing a poster for somebody, right? And you use destructive editing, and then you flatten afterwards. So let's say somebody says, okay, all right, let me look in one of my folders. Multimedia, clients, or projects, clients. All right, let's try this one. Tryouts, yeah. Let's try this one. So this one I did last year, Photoshop. So example, let's say you did something, and you can probably see, well, like I said, Photoshop uses layers, right? You can probably see how much files or layers I use, quite a bit, right? If you use destructive editing and decide, hey, I'm gonna, flatten everything when I'm done, and then you're like, okay, I'm done, I want to save my file size and keep my space and stuff, and I go, yeah, I'm just gonna right click and choose flatten everything, or convert to a smart object. Or I can't because things, rasterize everything, and I decide to merge layers. Like, yeah, I'm done. Well, one, it comes out weird because when you merge your layers, some of your blending modes don't come over so well. And if, for instance, you're done and the client said, for November 3 you got the time wrong, and you already saved and closed Photoshop, you're like, I got the what wrong? I have to do what now? You have to change the date, man. That's wrong. you're gonna have to be like this now. You're like, well, it's not so bad, you know. It's on a black thing, so it's not too bad. And you just come over and you go, you know, I just delete that and, you know, erase it. And yeah, what if you don't want the volleyball anymore? You kind of have to just erase everything, and you see some of these transparent parts will be kind of difficult to fix up. So destructive editing, bad. Because if you use destructive editing, what means is you're destroying pixels, which means you can't go back to its original look or feel. And for example, if you flatten things like texts, which you can, if you flatten them, you won't be able to actually go back and edit them. There we go. West Coast. Pretty sure Patrick could find this one. Alright, so that's an example of a file. They can get much larger. For example, if I should open one by an architect in the making, T. Lewis. I'll just show you an example of one. 2017 sheet 1. So example, this sheet 1, it's 7,200 by 10,800 pixels, because we were looking at 36 inches being the highest. So if, for instance, we do stuff like this and it's big, the file size can get really huge. So example, for the renders, sheet 1 and sheet 2, example here, file size is 270 megabytes. And for sketches, this one is 512 by megabytes. That's like half a gig basically. So you can see how much space you'll be taking up if you're working on a whole bunch of projects. And if you do have an external hard drive, get one. Especially if you have those recurring clients who probably show up like once a year. So remember last year's flyer? Yeah, we're having the same, you know, having the same event again. You can just change up who's supposed to be on the list and just tweak the color scheme a little bit and just change the faces of the people. The same sponsors, except we're not getting Burger King again because they decide they're not sponsoring us this year. And you're like, okay, that's easy. But if you said, well, I'm done with this client, you know, and they call back, you have to start process over. I mean, some smart things to do, as I've seen in this website called Clients from Hell, where this guy was designing a website for somebody, and they did everything, and the person said they loved it, and they backed up what they did before. A person comes back following a couple of days or weeks later and says, remember the original color scheme that we signed off on, that we said we didn't like? Yeah, we want that one. So the guy billed him for changing it the first time and billed him again for changing it the second time, even though he had the previous one as a backup. And that's how it works. Usually it's, you have to pay by how much work and how much effort you put into the thing, right? So by right, he should be charging, because essentially if he had to do it over again, he'd be doing this, and it was his prerogative to back up the file in the first place. So smart on his point, it saved him a lot of money. So let's do something else that's simple. All right, so I kind of want to work with, so we know how to crop images. If you want to scale down images now, right? So let's say we have this and you want to change the size. Image size, you can always just, and one thing I'd like to emphasize is that when you're scaling, try to keep constrained proportions on. So this is if we're dealing with just images in general. We're not dealing with if we're creating a composition of different images. If you want to resize something, you can just type in what size you want to be, 200. When you have constrained proportions on, it actually conforms the height and width to the same ratio as before. So you won't be losing, you won't get any skewing or, you know, screen. It just keeps the same size. Now the thing about resizing images, and I'll kind of point this out, let me see. Image size, I'm going to change this to like 50 by 56, right? So what was the original size? This is, let's see, file. Just let's remember one parameter. Hello. Supposed to be next door. Yeah. So this is 535. I'm gonna say just like 50. What's 535? See that? It's really small. If we size it back up or scale it back up, image size was 535. Yeah, it gets pixelated because you've essentially lost pixels. Yeah. So one way I like to overcome this, especially if I'm working with this, first of all, when you open an image in Photoshop, the background is typically locked. So you just double click on that to unlock it, press OK. And what I'll do for this, if I know I'm going to be scaling down stuff, I usually right click on it and choose convert to smart object. Now you'll see it become something else. And one of the other things about smart object, it's not directly editable because, oh, no layers are selected. Hold on, this one. Right. So you can't directly edit a smart object. You actually have to go inside the smart object to edit it because it's like you kind of grouped it inside itself. So it keeps all the data inside itself somewhere. So if I were to do this, the same resizing and stuff, let me show you image size, and we'll go 50 again, and I go image size 535. It's not going to lose any quality because essentially all of its data is stored in here. He's over there.
Sorry, what? Isn't this one a 42?
No, over there. 42?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've extended the room.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry, that's soon.
Huh?
That's soon.
Yeah. Oh, I already know.
Of course it does. So there's this. So if you want to actually edit this, you can double click on the thumbnail of it, that thing, press OK. It says, and please read, after editing the contents.
What's wrong with my card?
It doesn't work. It's new semester. You have to get it coded again when you pay school fee.
Again?
Don't worry about it.
What do you mean don't worry about it? But I can't get in.
Oh, here.
So I do have to worry about it. So do I have to fuck up all the security and do it all over again?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
Go away. I'm recording.
I'm sorry. Alright. Come here.
Press OK. Alright, so when you actually modify something, let's say I want to get rid of one of the eyes. Maybe I want to add an extra eye. Oh, okay, let's put a Sharingan in the eye. Alright, so we'll go on Photoshop interwebs. Just do one really simple one. Sharingan. Why not? Why not? I mean, and I'll just pick one of these. I don't know, this one. Yeah, view image. Wrong one, right? Which one? You prefer this one? This one? This one? This one? Over here? Fine, fine. Alright, fine. Let's use this one. Is this one you're talking about?
Yes, yes.
Jeez. Alright, view image. Right? And like when you're doing stuff like this, don't just right click on it and just save that image because that image might not be the actual file size. You want the biggest one you can get. So we just save this image, or we can just copy this image. And I'm just going to paste it inside this document. It pastes it on a new layer, right? And I'm going to take off show transformation controls. Now one of the things with this is that you kind of have this white background, which is annoying. And let's say we want to get rid of this white background. We can use the magic wand tool, select that layer, and click and press delete. Just press delete and that's it. Right, so we want to put this in the bird's eye. Right, so Control T, and when you're using Control T to transform. If you want to scale down now, you select one of these edges and hold Shift. Why I'm holding Shift is because I actually want it to constrain the proportions. If I don't hold Shift, I'll get something like that, which I don't really want. So let's say it's about this size, maybe. Tick. Carry this up. And you kind of want it to fit inside that area, right? Right now I'm at 300%. That's why it looks so pixelated. So let me kind of hide this. Use that same magic wand tool. Shortcut is W. Select the eye and just press shift again and select an additional set of pixels. Yeah. And what we can do is something called masking. What masking does is that based on my selection here, I can actually hit the mask button and it'll just mask it inside that area. And of course, just to make it look more interesting, we can take this thing, layer style FX. That's that FX button down there, and I'm just going to choose a gradient overlay and change the blending mode to probably multiply. Probably reverse it like so, or even radial, so it looks more like that. And then press OK. Zoom out. Playing what black? The bird? Shouldn't I just get a crew and just do it then? And press save. So remember, this thing was a the smart object, right? Remember I said before you can't directly edit your smart object. So if I actually save this and come back over here, it actually modifies that for me. Yeah. Want to know why that is cool? Essentially, let's say you're designing business cards, right? By the way, whenever I change one, I'm going to duplicate this. Oh, no, I can't. Let me change the size. Image, canvas size. Canvas size is different from the image size, by the way. I'm going to set this about 15. Let's say I have 2 of these. One, and I'm holding Alt. You'll see the cursor change to like a duplicate double arrows. Let's pull this out. I'm going to hold Shift so it snaps to that there. Now, if I do something with a smart object, example here, let's go back inside the smart object. All right, let's say I change the color of this Sharingan to something else, because I can. Color overlay, and I'm going to change it to, I don't know. Yeah, why not? Yellow. Looks like that. I'm going to change it from the blending mode to hue. No. Oh, yellow is too dull. Guess I'll have to change it again. This is all so ugly. Let's try blue. Hue, hue, hue. Because it's gradient overlay, it's too dark. Right, there we go. If we do this, and now it's blue, right? If I save this smart object, when I come over here, oh, wrong one. They both become blue. That's good, because if you're doing a business card and you have like a whole tiled set of business cards to print, and let's say you make a mistake with one of them, you don't want to be going through every single one of them to change them. You just save, do it once for it, and then everything changes. Once the Fire Nation attacks, of course. Right, so that's some basic stuff. So we kind of just went through a little bit of the selection tool. One of them is Magic Wand, right? When we actually do something practical, we'll actually be doing a composition where we take a bunch of images and we combine them to make one composition, right? So I'm going to erase this. I don't need to save anything. By the way, I actually put this bow tie on this bird. Yeah, you can tell because there's no shadow underneath this thing. And some things you should just be able to tell. So that's been Photoshop. That's obviously Photoshop. Right, so let's make one more thing. Quality. These look like sweet potatoes. What? They get it wrong or something? Sweet potatoes are yams. They call them sweet yams. Okay, these are all sweet potatoes. Yeah, yeah. Jamaica. Oh, by the way, when you're looking for images, you can actually go settings. I'm sorry, tools, not settings, and choose the color. Let's say I wanted one, and sometimes you might be working with stuff and you have to cut out people out of backgrounds, but sometimes you just want to just have it pre-done. You can actually look for yam, like example, an image yam, and choose the color to be transparent. That way, I don't need to be cutting out the people, and it's already clean. So I don't even know what this is. All right, let's work with this. I think this is a yam. I don't know. And also, it's best to choose large sizes, easier to work with. And there's no yams. That's fine. I'll just pick one. I'll pick this one. Yeah, let's work with this. This is a cassava, by the way, just say. So hard to find a yam, isn't it? Oh, since it does. You know what? Let's just save this. So view image. If you want to make sure that it's a transparent, and especially on Google, you have to make sure that's a PNG. Because if it's JPG and it tells you it's transparent, it really isn't. So save image as cassava through my downloads. Yeah, typically not all of them, but when they're transparent, it's usually a PNG image. Yeah, for transparency anyway. So let me find my download, and then we just end class in less time. Ooh, downloads. Huh? Oh? Oh, you have a tutorial section? That's up to the lecturer. Chances are you'll be getting the case studies, which is actually pretty good. Come on, guys. Everything has case studies. Like, hey, it's not like doctors are none. I mean, generally speaking. Well, let's fix this piece of yam here, because this one doesn't have a bottom. That thing. You know what? It's a yam now. Okay, it's a yam. Alright, so there's problems with this image. One is that, hey, this shadow actually cuts off itself. Two, this part is kind of weird. So let's see if we can try and fix those. Well, alright, so let's fix this up. One, because of the way I pulled it in a while ago, it becomes a smart object by default. This one, yeah. So I can actually rasterize it. By rasterizing it, it becomes pixels that can be edited. So no dreadlocks, no. It doesn't say here. So what we'll do is, I'm going to use something called the clone stamp tool. What the clone stamp tool really does is that it allows me to select a source, right, by holding Alt, and I can then start redrawing that source somewhere else. Useful for, when you want to create twin brothers and stuff. Yes, I am. And then we just fix up this part here. And then I'll just copy this. Oh no, my feathering is too much. 0. I like this stuff. Copy. This will be cheap, and somebody with a good eye should be able to tell. Jeez, wrong one. Copy, paste. That copy, yeah. Right, cool. So Control T to transform it. Right click. We're gonna flip this thing vertically and just shift it over down quite fancily. Being cheap, sorry. And just kind of fix it up a little bit and press enter. Yay, it's amazing. Well, you I mean, you can actually tell by looking at that, but yeah, I'll just erase a bit of it. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Yeah, that. Good enough. Right, so this shadow over here has problems too. Shh. I'm gonna erase this. This is destructive editing, but I'm just gonna use a very light brush and just fade it so it doesn't look too obvious. Right, and we need a crown. The thing about composing images though is you want to make sure that the images that you're putting together are of relatively the same quality, because then it becomes really obvious when somebody sees a really high quality background and this person standing in front of it that just does not look like they're supposed to be there. So a transparent crown here. My, so many crowns. I like this one. Oh no, it's one of them free clip art things. No, please. That would be far too much so early. Paste that there. Problem? Yes. The background is black. So we just delete that stuff. And using the transform, Control T, just kind of do this thing, scale it down. Of course, you know, to get it to be more real, I'm going to create one more layer. And let me tell you how layers really work. They work like a stack. The thing on the lowest layer is at the bottom. The thing on the highest layer is at the top. And yes, you are free to label your layers. It's most preferred. So 1, let's get rid of this shadow. 2, let's lower the opacity of this brush. By the way, for every tool, your properties are going to be located at the top here. I'm just going to choose multiply so it doesn't look too bad, and then just crown it over here, you know, just yeah, some crownish. Alright, that's really bad. Yeah, it's really bad. So let's just destroy some of this stuff and fade it out. Oh, it's not erasing. Oops. And also, when you're doing compositions, also it's good to take consideration of where your shadows actually are, because I did it on the left side because the shadows are pointing in this direction. So, and then you can just throw in. Right. Ta-da. So we'll just leave it there for today. Right. But what I would suggest though is I'm gonna send you guys. You guys put your numbers in the book, right? So I'm gonna just send you guys some tutorials you can try, and when I upload this, I'll also throw it up in there as well, right? So you can save or delete. Sometimes it depends on how the semester goes, because you might. I've seen it happen in the past where they don't want another lab test; they just want to do the exercises instead. Because according to the system, lab test 1 is 25, lab test 2 is 30. So I usually just take off that 30 as the exercises. So essentially, you can get as much grades as you want. 4 usually. It depends. All right, that's it. Record stop.